This is the new Tesla Model Y. We're driving it in the Netherlands today. And this is a very important car. We'll explain why later on, but first, what is new with the new Model Y? And you can see it does look pretty different from the previous car, doesn't it? So this front end is lower than it was before. There's no Tesla badge on the nose. You've got a new light bar, and there's also an extra camera at the bottom there to help with all the assisted driving features. That's in addition to the two cameras that you already have on top of the windscreen there. And this has its own washer jet to help keep it clean, and it's also heated to stop it from fogging up and to help defrost it when it's cold. You get these 19-inch alloys as standard, but you can pay extra on the higher trim levels to get bigger 20-inch alloys. You also get this grey paint as standard, which is new for the Model Y, but if you want to spend £1,300, then you get a choice between white or black, or for £2,600 you have a choice between silver or a new red for the Model Y. At the rear there's another light bar, but what you actually see is a reflection of the light that's being emitted from up here, which is pretty cool. You also now have the Tesla name spelt out across the back, and the number plate has been moved lower down compared to before. But now you can see that you've got a lot more separate pieces here, and the bumper sticks out a lot more than it did before. And that apparently is because in the previous car, because it was just one big slab, if it was dented or scratched and needed replacing, that was pretty expensive to do. So now the hope is having these separate pieces is going to make it cheaper, and apparently Tesla reckons that will also make it cheaper to insure. Now inside you have the same basic layout as before, so it's still got this minimalist look that we're now very used to in Teslas, but there have been some changes here and there. So for example, down here on the center console, a slight rejigging means that the cup holders are now covered by this lid, and it all looks a little bit neater down there. There's no wood on the dashboard anymore. Instead you've got this fabric covering, and you get a black interior as standard, but for £1,100 more you can have a black and white interior. And Tesla says that a change in the manufacturing process of the car, and this interior in particular, has resulted in improved interior quality, and it says a lot of the materials are better than before as well. So is that the case? Well, we have known Tesla interiors to get better and better over the years. And to be honest, this, although not perfect, look at this shut line over here in a different level, this is another example of Tesla interiors continuing to improve. And this is certainly the best Model Y interior that we've sat in. The materials all look and feel really very nice. It's really solid in here, and it just feels pretty premium, and now compares very well against other electric SUVs in this class and their interiors, like the Kia EV6, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Renault Scenic as well. You also have a new steering wheel, and this is the same one from the new Model 3, except there are no indicator buttons on this, because the new Model Y thankfully still has an indicator stalk. When the Model 3 was updated, this was removed, and you had to poke at some buttons on the steering wheel if you wanted to signal that you were turning left or right, which is a faff, takes a lot of getting used to. Thankfully, that's not a problem with the new Model Y. But you might notice that you are missing a stalk on the other side of the steering column, and in the old Model Y, that was where you would find a gear selector. However, now, like the Model 3, that's been moved onto the touchscreen, which sounds like it could be absolutely disastrous, but in all the driving of the new Model 3 that we've done and the time that we spent in the Model Y, it's not actually as terrible as it sounds, because it's a very simple process of just swiping up to go into drive, swiping down to go into reverse, and it's great that it's within easy reach from the steering wheel, so that isn't a problem. But just like before, you don't have a driver display, so it means that everything that you need to know about your driving information is still on this central touchscreen. So it is a little more distracting having to take your eyes over to the top of the screen here to see just the speed that you're travelling, rather than having it all right in front of you as you get in most other cars. And it is a shame that Tesla still doesn't offer a head-up display for this new Model Y, not even on the options list. Something you do get that's new with this car though is this ambient interior lighting that you can see here. These front seats have been redesigned and now offer a bit more support than they did before, and to be honest, in the previous Model Y you could slide around a bit in your seat if you were going around a corner, but now the side support is better in these new seats, and generally they do feel very comfortable, and they're also ventilated as well as heated now. There's a new glass sunroof as well, and this reflects apparently 7 times more solar energy than before, which should make it easier to keep the cabin cool, although in the UK that's not such a big issue. On the subject of glass, there is upgraded acoustic glass in the front and in the back, and that, along with lots of other sound deadening work throughout this car, should mean, according to Tesla, 20% less road noise than before. This 15.4-inch touchscreen infotainment system is the same size as it was before. It's running pretty much the same software, but it just has slightly thinner bezels. And we know from having used Tesla systems loads in the past and having a good go on this one as well that, okay, you don't get Apple CarPlay, you don't get Android Auto, but the biggest compliment you can pay to this system is the fact that that doesn't really matter, because you get Google Maps built in, you get things like Spotify, and it's very intuitive, the graphics are really nice, and the response time is among the best of any infotainment system out there. So this is still a close to class-leading infotainment system. Although, of course, it would always be better if there were some physical buttons around to help operate this, because having a system that is purely touchscreen can be very distracting to use while you're driving. So overall, it's only really a few minor tweaks here and there, but it does mean that this Model Y interior is better than ever, and very good compared to the competition. There haven't been any big changes to the dimensions of the Model Y, so that means that the interior space on offer is very similar to what you had before. So in the rear seats, it's still really generous, even for adults sat in the back here. There's loads of legroom. Headroom with this sunroof is very generous as well. There have still been a couple of tweaks though, so the seat cushions here are apparently 1.5 centimetres longer. There's a bit more side support as well, although in both cases it would be a bit better if there was even more under thigh support and even more side support back here. You can though electrically adjust the angle of the backrest here. So you can have a more upright sitting position, or you can put it back and relax a little bit more, and you can control that using this button down here, or by using this 8-inch screen which comes as standard for passengers in the rear, and that lets you control the seat heating. You get heated rear seats as standard, as well as adjusting the angle of it. You can select the media that you're listening to. You can even connect your Bluetooth headphones to this screen as well, so you can listen to whatever you're watching on it on a long journey, which is great. Now what's very strange is in the old Model Y, just before it went off sale, Tesla suddenly announced a 7-seat version of that car in the UK, and now obviously there's a new Model Y, but you will not be able to get a 7-seat version of this car. Although to be honest, judging by the 2 extra seats in the old car, which were pretty much useless, that is no great loss. If you want an electric 7-seater, you'll have to look elsewhere. As we've said, no huge changes in dimensions for the new Model Y, so that means practicality-wise for the boot, it is very, very similar to before, which means it is still very big. You've got loads of storage in here, and what's particularly brilliant is you've got these massive compartments either side. You've got this boot floor which you can lift up to reveal a massive amount of underfloor storage there. And also what's handy is you can hold up the boot floor like so to free up your hands and throw things into this underfloor storage area. You can also remove it and fold this up to give you a better view of even more storage just in front of the rear seats here, and you can take this bit of the boot floor out as well. So just like before, still very practical, although the official figures show that overall there's 20 litres less storage in the new Model Y compared to the old one. You still have a front boot in the new Model Y as well, and it's really brilliant to have this because it's not just a gimmicky space that's of no practical use. It is big enough to fit an entire carry-on size suitcase in the front. And in the previous Model Y, using this space and the whole boot, we could fit 10 suitcases into it, which for context, in a Renault Scenic, in an EV6, we could get 7. So this is a very, very practical car. But we will have to see if the reduction of 20 litres from the boot does impact the number of suitcases that we can fit into it when we get this car in the UK. Something new for the front boot, by the way, is the fact that you now have a drain in the back of it. So you can, in theory, throw your muddy boots in here and then hose it down at the end of the day to help keep it clean. This bonnet still isn't electrically powered, but you can unlock it through the touchscreen, and then you do have to lift it up yourself, but it's no hardship. It's a very simple thing to do. It does mean, though, that it's still only the Cybertruck in Tesla's lineup that gets an electrically powered bonnet. Now, we said at the start that this is a very important car for Tesla, and that is the case because it seems as though the American manufacturer is going through a bit of a tricky spell at the minute. For a long time, things were going brilliantly for Tesla. Its products were getting better and better, sales were going up and up. But in 2024, global sales were down for the first time in a decade. And in January this year, sales in Europe were down 50% year on year. So why does it seem like the momentum has shifted? There are a few different factors contributing to this, and of course different ways to interpret it all. But firstly, Tesla is up against a growing number of competitors. So when the Model Y first launched, there were hardly any other electric SUVs out there to choose from. But today, the new Model Y is up against things like the Kia EV6, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Audi Q4 e-tron, the Skoda Enyaq, and many, many more electric SUVs, with lots more competitors coming soon in the near future as well. So it is no longer the default electric SUV choice, simply because it's one of the only options. It's also thought the sales decline in Europe could be down to a backlash from car buyers against Tesla boss Elon Musk and his support of far-right political parties over here. And we're interested to know, is that something that would stop you from buying a Tesla? Tell us in the comments below. Another factor contributing to the downturn in sales is just the fact that the Model Y was getting a bit older and it wasn't such a shiny new product anymore, having launched in 2020. And so potential electric SUV car buyers last year might have been holding off from buying one, knowing that a new model was coming up just around the corner. And so some would say that this dip in sales is entirely predictable and just part of the process of updating a car. But the truth is, whether this globally is just a blip that's temporary from Tesla or signs of a more prolonged downturn in fortunes is something we're only going to know further down the line. And despite some negative looking sales figures right now, the fact is the Tesla Model Y is the best selling car in the world. It was in 2023 and it achieved the same feat in 2024. So has Tesla made it even better? Now it's time to talk through the mechanical updates in this car. But on the face of it, you might think that not much has changed because it's got the same batteries and electric motors as before. But quite a lot has changed, starting with the range. So in the old car, the maximum official range that you could get was 373 miles officially from a full charge. But now that is up to more than 380 miles from this updated Model Y. That is for a long-range rear-wheel drive model, and like the old car, you can also have a long-range all-wheel drive Model Y, and there's an entry-level rear-wheel drive car with a smaller battery. There's no official confirmation yet from Tesla that a performance version is on the way, but surely you'd expect that in time. And so across the board, official ranges are up compared to the old car. Tesla says this boost in range has been possible thanks to a few different tweaks here and there in the aerodynamics of the car, and also thanks to some new tyres that have less rolling resistance than before. And Tesla says that the car should feel different as you cover those miles as well, because there have been updates to the suspension and the steering, and also because of the acoustic glass and the extra sound deadening. Tesla is promising a smoother and quieter ride than before, which would be very welcome because ride comfort and refinement have never been real strengths of the Model Y. Now, it's not like the old Model Y was an absolute stinker on the road, far from it, but in terms of ride comfort, it was quite unsettled. The impacts on the suspension could be quite harsh, and it generally felt a bit firm. But with the new Model Y, there is still firmness to the ride, but it does feel more settled, particularly at motorway speeds. And if you do pass over a speed bump or a big imperfection on the road, the impact on the suspension and the interior doesn't feel as abrupt as it did in the old car. Similarly, there has been a really noticeable improvement in refinement. In the old Model Y, it was pretty noisy inside. Again, particularly on the motorway, you'd have a lot of road noise, you need to raise your voice to have a conversation with someone. But now, things are a lot quieter inside. Now, when it comes to the steering, that has been changed a bit as well. In the previous car, it had a very quick setup, similar to the Model 3. And in that lower, sportier car, it was fairly well suited to it. Made it feel quite agile. But in the taller, heavier Model Y, it meant that it could feel a bit twitchy and a bit nervous as well. But now what Tesla's tried to do is slow down the steering, particularly around centre. And so that means that in the new Model Y, the initial steering inputs do feel a bit calmer than they did before. And so the new Model Y is more comfortable, it's quieter inside, the steering is a bit better suited to the car, and it generally is very good on the road. The charging capability, by the way, is the same as it was before, which means that the new Model Y can still accept a maximum charging rate of 250 kilowatts. And it has access to Tesla's fantastic supercharger network. Now that is great because the non-Tesla public charging infrastructure is, by comparison, frankly, pretty rubbish. Although that isn't quite the advantage that it used to be for Teslas, because in the UK, lots more superchargers are being opened up to non-Tesla EVs. And what about the price? Well, there has been an increase of a couple of £1,000s across the lineup for the new Model Y. But given the improvements to the car on the road, that doesn't seem like such an outrageous price hike. And it still means that this is very competitively priced compared to its rivals. In fact, it still costs less than some premium badged electric SUVs like the Audi Q4 e-tron. The one exception to this in the new Model Y lineup is the Launch Series model, which is a limited run trim that you can buy in the UK. It's based on the long-range all-wheel drive model, but at more than £60,000, it is very hard to recommend. But the other trim levels do look like good value, and whichever Model Y you buy, you will have a 4-year or 50,000-mile warranty as standard. And in our 2024 reliability survey, the Model Y was actually the most reliable electric SUV that was included in our survey. Plus, on top of that, the old Model Y had a full 5-star rating from crash safety experts Euro NCAP, and Tesla is hoping to put this through another crash test, and it also expects that it might score even better. The old Model Y was a very good electric SUV. It just wasn't quite polished enough on the road to be an outright class leader. This new Model Y is more comfortable and it's quieter, and so that, on top of the fact that it's got a really nice interior with a brilliant infotainment system, it offers fantastic practicality, it has a very good range, and it's really good value for money compared to its rivals, all means that this new Model Y objectively is one of the more compelling electric SUV choices out there. Thanks very much for watching this review. If you want to see another one, then click there and subscribe to our channel while you're at it. And if you want to read more about the Model Y and every car around, click on that link to go to whatcar.com.